If you are a victim or witness of a crime, the Office of Victim Witness Advocacy at the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office is here to help. We learned the array of services the office offers from mental health to U visas for immigrants who are victims of a crime. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, offering primary, specialty, and urgent care, plus surgery and more. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.
Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. If you are a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime, often you want to know what services are available to help you. Well, I do have Ray Royster. He is a victim witness coordinator with the Office of Victim Witness Advocacy at the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office. Raymond, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about your role and the role certainly of the Victim Witness Advocacy Office. But let's start a little bit about your role at that office.
All right, thank you. So I joined the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office in about October of 2018, and I joined the team as the coordinator for the Victim Witness Unit. That was, unbeknownst to me, that was one of my numerous hats that I would be wearing while working at the prosecutor's office. But my most important role is to oversee the Victim Witness Advocacy Unit on behalf of the prosecutor. So what I do is I coordinate the services and the advocates so that they can go out and service individuals, whether they are a survivor of a homicide, whether they're a victim of an assault, a victim of a robbery, stalking, harassment, sexual assault, domestic violence, crimes against children. It's a plethora of things that someone could be victimized from, and my unit serviced them from the inception of the case to sentencing and to appeal and everything in between. And when I say service them, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to talk a little bit about the makeup of those offices. Obviously, we have a large Hispanic population in the region, and just wondering if you have bilingual staff that are able to assist, particularly these advocates that are helping victims as well as the witnesses.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have two very capable and very well-experienced advocates that are both bilingual, that work diligently and passionately with all members of the community, but specifically with members of the Hispanic and Latino community very frequently. So they work with them on a ground level to ensure that they understand that every piece of the criminal justice system. There's one thing to be victimized, but it's another thing to not speak the native language of those that are charged with assisting you or advocating for you. So we have our advocates that work directly with those families, those individuals, those entire communities actually, to ensure that their voices are heard, their concerns are taken very seriously at every step of the criminal justice process.
And I know, Raymond, that your office covers a whole plethora of services to help victims as well as the witnesses. The question I have, particularly, I know in minority communities, there is a reluctance, if you will, and perhaps some disparities on how they're treated within the court system. And how are you able to overcome some of those disparities and be able to reach out to the minority communities, people of color?
Well, specifically, it's not just in the criminal justice system that the minorities and people of color feel injustices. Unfortunately, it's within their own communities that people are victimized due to ages of, lack for a better term, systemic oppression and other types of discrimination, which has caused people to congregate or to live in certain areas due to redlining or gentrification and other terms. But the way that the Atlanta County Prosecutor, Damon Tyner, has taken upon this task and this charge is to put our mission first, put our purpose before anything else, and which is to engage the community, to ensure them that we have their best interests at heart, not only to protect them, but to advocate for them at every single step of the process. Because just because a person may be a victim of a crime does not mean that they've necessarily reported that crime. So it's important for us to go out and make ourselves known in the community by doing these type of programs, by doing other trainings and workshops within every single community. Because one thing I always talk to people about is you cannot serve the people or assist the people if you're scared of them, or if you're not willing to go to where they are, to meet them where they are, to talk about their problems in real time, and they're in a place where they feel comfortable. And too often, as you elaborated earlier, people of color and people from even immigrant descent do not feel comfortable going to law enforcement to ask for help. So now we have to go to them, which is part of my other role as a community liaison, to go out into the community, to talk to different agencies, talk to entire neighborhoods about what their rights are as a victim, what their rights are as a citizen of this county. So I do that quite often, talk to people at schools, churches, any and everywhere where someone will allow me to come. I go do that, and I advocate on behalf of the prosecutor about the numerous services that.
Well, certainly kudos to the prosecutor, because that is very much needed and certainly something that's been lacking for many years. And are you finding that that's making a difference? The outreach that you're doing in the communities of color, is that really making a difference?
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't expect for the ship to be turned around overnight, because it's been years and years and years of people feeling disenfranchised and underrepresented or misrepresented sometimes as well. So there's been very much progress that's been going on that I've seen on firsthand by going out to talk to people, to let them know that I'm here. Not only that I'm here, but I would ask for them to hold others who were here before me or here in other capacity, to hold them accountable and to bring any infractions that they've noticed to my attention, so that they can be corrected and brought ultimately up the line if need be. So transparency is the key, and getting out and letting people know that, I am a real person. I'm not just someone behind a desk or on an email. I'm here in the community, walking next to these people a lot of times, or working with them in other cases, to let them know that we are here to support them.
And I know that you have reached out to the Hispanic Association, and we're looking to offer some education about the services that you do offer. You also reached out to the NAACP, churches, etc. If someone wants to get in touch with you to talk to their individual groups about your office, the Victim Witness Advocacy Office, what number should they call?
They can really call just 609-909-7800, or easier, they can contact me directly via email at Royster, ROYSTER _R @ acpo.org. and I will vet out any requests and make arrangements so that we can come out and work with any group that requests us.
And certainly that's very important. And again, kudos to the prosecutor's office. The outreach is tremendous, and hopefully you continue to do that. We want to talk about two items. One is the services you offer for victims of crime, and also what protections you provide for the witnesses, folks that witness a crime. Raymond, thank you once again. And we're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Roy Royster. He is the Victim Witness Coordinator for the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. And Raymond, we were talking a lot about your role at the Prosecutor's Office, helping victims and witnesses. Let's talk a little bit about some of the services that your office offers, particularly for victims. And let's start off, there is such a thing as a victim Bill of Rights. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically there's legislature that supports and protects victims and witnesses as they participate in the criminal justice process. So it's a rather lengthy document, but let me just read the first line of it. Really summarizes the entire purpose and intent of that document. It states that a victim of a crime shall be treated with fairness, compassion, and respect by the criminal justice system. That in and of itself expands so deeply within to the heart of the prosecutor's office, as well as to the intent that goes behind all of what we do on a day-to-day basis. So it ensures that the victim's rights are protected, that the victim has a right to speak at certain proceedings that are public. The victim has a right to let their complaints known to the prosecutor as long as it's within a reasonable time frame, and that the prosecutor must convey these things to the court. It also ensures that the victim does not have to pay for certain parts of the proceedings, such as mental health services or other cleanup things that may have occurred during the crime in some instances as well. So it also ensures that every county has a county victim witness unit to work with the victims as they are going through their victimization and ultimately.
And I guess this is where you come in, certainly, and your team. You do advocate for those rights and those needs that the victims of a crime have. Let's talk more specifically about some of the services. And I know that some of these victims require services. You mentioned mental health, but there's a whole array. Can you walk me through a little bit about some of the services that your office helps to coordinate to provide services for victims of crime?
Absolutely. So the first service that we provide to every person that interacts with the prosecutor's office is respect and compassion. So when any individual contacts my office and speaks to anyone within my office, specifically my unit, they are going to be guaranteed that they are going to be respected, they're going to be listened to, and their voice and opinion is going to be valued. Moving forward, every individual is a completely different case. There's no one blanket thing that's going to be a fix-all to every person. So we treat and assess each individual as the cases come in and they are presented to us, so we can make sure that that individual has the services that are needed for that person or that family. Some of the things that we offer to people are mental health counseling and referral services, domestic violence referral services to our local women's center, which is now called Avanzar, located right here in Atlantic County. We also work with individuals to provide grief counseling. The main source for grief counseling, one of the main ones is the Alcove in Atlantic County. We also work with individuals for other things that people don't really think about when they need to get to court. We help sometimes people get transportation to actually get to court. We also work with child care providers to make sure that the individuals who need to attend court, they have child care so that they can actually do so and not be worried about those things. We have other referral services that we refer people to the Victims of Crime Compensation Office, which is run out of the Attorney General's office. That office, the VCCO in short, works with individuals to fill in all the financial gaps that sometimes people are plagued with after they've been victimized. They are the last resort for payment. However, they are utilized quite often by our office. So if an individual does not have insurance, or is underinsured, or does not have the ability to pay for funeral services, the VCCO will step in and help pay for a lot of those different.
And again, though, this would be available through your office. So those advocates that are working through your office will make those referrals and help them walk through the process, correct?
Absolutely. Also, any individual in the state of New Jersey can apply to get services from the VCCO. The difference between going through the prosecutor's office is my unit are specialists. They've been trained to work with the VCCO to make sure that the forms are filled out correctly, that information is gathered in a timely fashion, also that reports can be obtained from local law enforcement agencies to help streamline the process, because it's a lot to deal with all these things, especially after your loved one may have been murdered. So it's a lot of other things that are going on, and my advocates specialize in working with people during their most vulnerable states to help make sure that there's no delay in getting these crucial services to the people who are desperately in need at the time when they need it the most.
You mentioned mental health, which is very, very important. Some of the trauma that some victims go through are not just a one-off visit, if you will, but they require some, intervention. And I know you also have crisis intervention and support services. And I'm assuming that you link those victims so that they could continue to have those services that resulted from the specific trauma that they experienced.
Absolutely. So we do that very regularly for adults to refer them out to different services depending on what their level of need is. So we work with numerous different mental health providers within our county. But specifically also, we have an initiative called the Child Advocacy Center, to which we have a building that's child-friendly, that works with children who have been victimized as well, so that the child will go into a facility, be interviewed by a professional forensic interviewer or detective, and then have other entities that are involved in that child's life, such as DCP&P, a medical provider, a mental health provider, one of my advocates, and sometimes also a prosecutor may even observe the video of the person getting interviewed, so that child will only have to tell that story one time if possible. And then after that child is interviewed, then we're able to easily and seamlessly refer that child to the appropriate services so that child can begin their recovery as well. So we have a completely different process to work with child victims as different from the adult victims. So
that's certainly very critical and important. And we often have the image of a child sitting very nervous to talk about what's happened to them, and it's another trauma, just experiencing for the second time when they have to give an account of what's happened. Certainly, whatever could be done to protect those children, I think is very important and critical.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, we want to talk a little more because we have a lot of other discussions we want to talk for the services you do offer. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Raymond Royster. He is the Victim Witness Coordinator for the Office of Victim Witness Advocacy at the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. And Raymond, Thank you for all of the information you provided regarding the host of services that your office provides to, first of all, bring dignity and respect to the victims of crimes. One important aspect that we want to talk about that's particularly important for the immigrant community are the U visa and T visas that your office has expertise on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the U visas are federal forms that I personally authorize on behalf of the prosecutor. And those forms are applications for temporary visas for individuals who have been victimized while in America. And basically, it allows for an individual to apply for up to a 4-year visa that will allow that person to work, to go to school, to gain, to get a driver's license, and to live otherwise peaceful and happy life while remaining in the United States. So if an individual was victimized, all that individual needs to do is to cooperate with law enforcement so that that person that victimized them could be brought to justice. So
I did want to have a question. Have a question here because I know that U visas are typically associated with victims of domestic violence, which is important, and certainly a U visa could be used for victims of domestic violence. But you also say it's for any crime.
correct. Any crime of the person. There are several crimes specifically that they have on the U visa guideline list that the federal guidelines will look at, but it's generally just about any crime that a person can come up with, and I will review them as I get each application, and then I'll make the determination whether we're going to move forward with allow that person to go on with their application. The other type of visa program is the T visa, which is reserved for victims of human trafficking. As you know, human trafficking is a very, very huge problem in America, but specifically, unfortunately, it's a very big problem in Atlantic County. We have a lot of migrant families that live in and around Atlantic County and also work in Atlantic County. And unfortunately, victims of human trafficking are generally associated with sex trafficking, but it can also be labor trafficking, as well as other types of things that people often overlook. So we have people who are being forced into labor against their will and have their documentation taken from them, from their native country, or all their funds taken from them. So this is an opportunity for people to ultimately get free from their oppressors and people who are holding them back from living their best lives. So I take those applications as well, and review them and approve them and move them up the line so that that individual can live a life on their own and have their own documentation as a result of them being victimized in the human trafficking ring.
So while we're talking about the migrant community, oftentimes there is reluctance for victims of crimes to report crimes if they are undocumented, for fear of deportation and retaliation. What does your office offer in terms of encouraging those individuals to report the crimes and that they would be secure in reporting those crimes?
Well, thank you. The Attorney General has issued a directive called the Immigration Trust Directive, which was re-released and updated in March of 2019. And that directive specifically limits local law enforcement from cooperating with federal law enforcement and enforcing immigration and deportation laws. The only way that local law enforcement would be able to provide that type of assistance if they are seeking an individual for a specific crime that's not 100% related to their immigration status. So if an individual is wanted for a homicide, the fact that they're immigrant is not going to change that matter. It's not going to draw law enforcement to them, but it's not going to keep them away from them either. So law enforcement will still be able to follow their guidelines to protect the community, but specifically law enforcement will not be able to stop someone based off of their suspected immigration status. such as there were numerous laws like this in Arizona and in New York, stop and frisk and other things along that line, where people were being stopped based off of the way they looked. And the Attorney General, as well as the Atlanta County Prosecutor, are completely against that type of mindset and that type of treatment of our citizens and our people that live in our community. And we work diligently to enforce the new Immigration Trust Initiative, which causes for conversations like this to occur, for me to go out and speak with local individuals and bring law enforcement with me to let them know that this is your local law enforcement person that should be protecting you. And also, this is someone from my office, the prosecutor's office, who oversees the local law enforcement. So if you have an issue with the local law enforcement person, then you can report that directly to the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office, who will take that matter and review it. And if you do not agree with the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office decision, then you can ultimately report it to the Attorney General's office, which has ultimate control over all law enforcement in the state of New Jersey. So it's about accountability and transparency.
That's very important information. Certainly, there's still reluctance, but it's great that we could get that word out in terms that an undocumented individual can feel secure in reporting a crime, and certainly if they qualify for a U visa or a T visa, that your office is available to help them in that process. Let's talk a little bit about witness to a crime. And that is a little harder not to crack, so to speak, and that particularly in communities of color, there's little protection for witnesses of a crime, and certainly there's fear of snitching or coming forward to put yourself out as a witness. What advice or what services do you offer from your office?
Well, the first thing is when I speak to people, it's not simply as a representative of the prosecutor, which I gladly do all the time, but I speak to them as a citizen, as a person. No one wants to live in a crime-ridden area. No one wants to live next door to a murderer or someone who is abusing children or abusing women or other people or that are vulnerable. So if you see something, say something. That's the best advice I give to people all the time, because we're doing this to protect each other. We're doing this to protect ourselves. And the stigma associated with stop snitching is not for regular citizens. It's for people engaged in crime. It's for people who are protecting other people who are doing similar activities. It's not for law-abiding citizens who want their streets clean, who want their community safe. If you see something, then say something, because you're protecting yourself, your child, and your family. Especially if you're a homeowner, you're protecting your property. So I encourage people to stand up and protect their investment, which is their lives and their community.
Well, this is a great cutting off point, because unfortunately we're out of time. Great information. We'll put up your website again and your contact information. Raymond, thank you so much for coming here on Latino Motion, sharing this valuable information.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you once again for joining us here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment.
Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, offering primary, specialty, and urgent care, plus surgery and more. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world, and South Jersey Gas.